about their education and dissertation journey and all the great work that they have done or plan to do with their doctoral degree. Hi, I'm Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation, where we demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can write and defend their dissertation in 1 year or less. This event, before we get started, in this podcast episode is sponsored by Design Your Done Dissertation. This is our 5-hour virtual event where we will help you create your dissertation completion plan so that you can finish your dissertation in months instead of years. If you're interested in learning more about our event at Design Your Done Dissertation, visit www.designyourdissertation.com. And with this particular episode, what I wanted to start doing is, in the past, you've been able to listen to scholars from across the country talk about their work. But what I wanted to start doing is having a Velocity client edition of Done Dissertation Office Hours, where I talk with current and former clients of ours about the work that they do, so that you all can understand what happens in our program, but also so you can see great researchers who are going to go on to do great things. And I can always say that they started here with us first in the Velocity Group coaching program. So today we have a very special guest. We have Petula Alvaradous-Phillander, who is currently a doctoral student at Baylor University and an associate professor and public health science coordinator in the Department of Health Enhancement, Exercise Science, and Physical Education at Montgomery Community College. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. And Petula, I want to bring you up and let's give Petula some love. Petula, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what I love to do is I always like to get people's backstory because, we're in doc programs, finishing up the degree, but it doesn't start there. So let me ask you this. When you were younger, say Petula, like elementary, middle, high school, did you see yourself in a doctoral program now?
Absolutely not. I did not. I didn't know anyone who looked like me in a doctoral program. No one in my family ever had a doctoral degree, so no.
What did you think? Like, you're going through schooling, you're getting ready for college. What did that transition look like? What were you interested in back at that point in time when you were going into, say, undergrad?
One of the things my parents always say is that I always had a desire to be an educator. So I've always wanted to be a teacher. Didn't know what that looked like.
Right.
So I think, yeah, it's, fast forward many years, I'm not just a teacher, but I'm a college professor, which is good.
And so, you had a desire for teaching. Did that start out in undergrad? Like when you finished undergrad, did you go like into the teaching field, or what did that journey look like for you?
Well, no, absolutely not. I'll tell you guys, full story. I'm an immigrant. My family, migrated from the Caribbean. I'm the first in my family to get a college degree. So when I entered college, no one in my family really knew what college was about and what it entailed. I think I had one example. Like I said, I did an internship in a high school. And at that point I said, absolutely not. That is something I do not want to do. But I do like teaching. So I've always worked in like community health programs and things like that. So, my background is really public health. So, standing up in front of a crowd and talking, educating people on, health and wellness is the way I kind of channel my teaching energy.
And so you had it, like I've looked in your background, you have a unique history to get to where you are. So talk about those public health experiences and what led you to them. Because I know people always have a reason why they do what they do, but what led you to public health as a route to even your teaching?
So I would say that I graduated with my bachelor's degree from CUNY, New York, as a recreation therapist. Worked in a couple of the level 1 trauma hospitals throughout New York City, and 9/11 hit. Right. I got to tell you, this first day, my first week of work at a Brookdale hospital is when 9/11 hit. And,
Wow.
Because I was new, everyone was like, you just came through the orientation process, so you remember all of this. I remembered that feeling really limited and, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
I felt like my degree, I wanted more a global understanding of health. I decided to, maybe like less than a year later, I enrolled in public health. I mean, I graduated my degree in public health in 2010. So that's when, it wasn't as popular as it is today. It's tremendously popular today. Now everybody knows what public health is. But what I liked about my education is because it gave me a more global understanding of health policies. And that's what I've been able to do my degree. I worked for years for New York City Health and Hospital Corporation. I worked for New York City Department of Health in their Office of School Safety. I moved to Maryland a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago. I worked for Maryland's Department of Health. So I've really immersed myself in working, in various public health capacity in 2 major states.
So what have you seen being in your field of public health over time? And like you said, it's becoming popular. I mean, COVID, it's just something
Yeah.
that we could never have expected. But now it seems like an eye has been put towards on public health officials. And so what have you learned over time, maybe in the past, that you see happening now, maybe even good and bad, about how public health is, or how it's being, the policies around it, and what you just see is being implemented in our society?
I guess what I see, and I'll start with the positive, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
as an African American, with my MPH, and working a lot in program development. So I love community development, community empowerment.
Yep.
What I see is that there weren't a lot of diversity in this field.
Yeah.
So I feel now what COVID-19 has done is that it's really created opportunities for and a desire or programs that are targeting a diverse workforce. So as I said, I'm a community college professor in Montgomery County, and my college that I'm teaching at has a very diverse population. So
Right.
just today I was saying to students, if you asked me a year ago, what kind of jobs can I get with an associate degree? I would say you need to go ahead and get your master's degree. And I will always encourage students to move beyond the associate degree level, and you'll hear from my research interest right now. But now there's just so much job opportunities for students, looking for people who speak different languages. And what COVID-19 has shown is that communities, right? Communities that were the hardest hit by COVID are communities that have lower health status,
Sure.
the inner city communities. So it's created a lot of opportunities to work directly with individuals. So I'm excited about that. Health promotion is a big thing now. I'm excited about that. I think, with a public health degree now, because it's so popular, people understand. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what public health is, how public health professions can do. But it's still exciting. It's an exciting time to have a public health degree.
No, that's great. And so, you're teaching students, at the community college. So you're seeing what's happening on the ground with students, how they're going out to the workforce. And so at what point in this journey of teaching, I don't know if it happened then or maybe before this, that you decided, like, you know what, the MPH is not enough. I'm going to go get my doctorate.
I think teaching. I originally started, and I tell people this, I started working as an adjunct professor at Montgomery College, teaching 1 and 2 classes,
Sure.
Just to earn extra money. It wasn't something that I had planned to do.
Sure.
And then after teaching students and, just seeing the positive impact that we make on students who look like us, right? Students who they're the first in their family to go to college, I could relate. It really, I wanted to do justice for what I do in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I decided to enroll in an EDD program, right? So people are like, why didn't you just go ahead and do a master's in public health?
Yeah.
I like teaching. I like influencing the next generation. So I feel like my program has really helped me to be better in the classroom. So if you look at my classroom, my fill rates or I get good ratings because I've been able to really channel self-directed learning, learn about adult learning principles, which public health training and education didn't really offer me.
No, that's great. And so let me talk to you about the transition, right? So you're in the public health field, but you go to get an education doctorate. Was there how did that transition work, or what was it like for you trying to make that move? Because public health thinks about research and things in a particular way, and now you're in education, they have a certain way of looking at things. So how did you make that transition?
I don't know if I had to make a transition. I
Okay.
feel like they married each other. They mirror each other.
Yeah.
I feel okay. So even though I have my degree in education, my doctoral degree, and I will have my doctoral degree in
Indeed,
education,
put into existence. Yes. Yes.
right? It will happen. I have to tell you that I think that I realize that the gaps, right? As public health professionals, we're going into communities and educating and training people, but we don't know a lot about adult learning principles, andragogy, so since I started this program, I've presented on conferences and how do we infuse adult learning principles into our health promotion program. I'm really passionate about health literacy, right?
Yeah.
And the need to develop lifelong learners. So a lot of the principles I've learned in this program have helped me to really channel or present, or in the future probably write articles that really explores health literacy and how do we improve or help people to take better ownership of their health,
That,
right?
yeah. No, I love that, because I think sometimes we have skill sets that if we just looked into another discipline, we could say, oh, there's actually a very strong connection like you made between public health and education. But if you find your
Absolutely.
public health folks that they're really teaching, like you said, and if they don't have the teaching skill set, what use is it, the information? Do you see
Mhm.
that's probably part of what you see maybe going wrong in public health in terms of the people who are out here trying to teach and inform folks? They don't have necessarily the teaching toolkit yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could stand here and say I apologize to those first few classes that I've taught. I mean, I know all about public health principles and behavioral theories and things like that, but I didn't understand what it took for a student to really, how do I break the information down so students understand the information, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I've been able to do. Used, how to, I guess, structure it in a way. I talk a lot in my class about self-directed learning. And those things I learned from my degree program that I'm pursuing right now.
And so let's talk a bit more about your degree, your doctoral program.
Mhm.
So, you've been in your program. What was it like during the coursework phase? I know we have a lot of viewers who might be taking coursework, and so tell me about that experience for you in making that shift to doctoral level writing and reading and all those things.
Right. So I teach. I'm a full-time instructor, and I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the course load at the community college. I mean,
Ooh,
if
it's
you don't
high.
have anyone, right, you don't have anyone to cover. I mean, and I'm covering. I teach, unfortunately, well, fortunately, the most classes, the most credits in my discipline. And that has a lot to do with, I guess, availability, filling of the class and things like that. But you know, I I was talking about self-directed learning. I think
Yeah,
you have to have an ownership of your knowledge. You have to know why you're doing it. I mean, this is hard work, right? Working full time. I do have a family like many of you. I have a relationship. You just have to be able to organize yourself and prioritize what's important. Know that, you're not going to be in this doctoral program forever. So if
yeah,
you have to say no to family events, you have to say no. I was very involved in my church. Past 6 months, I had to step down from all involvement
yeah.
because I needed to. You just need to, and it's not forever. It's temporary. Like I say, that's my keyword. It's temporary.
No, for sure. We don't want anybody in these doctoral programs permanently. So that that
Right.
is that's an absolute fact. And so, you get you're doing your coursework, and then we get to the dissertation phase. So what starts happening as you start to write your dissertation? And yeah, talk about that beginning part
Mhm.
of the journey.
Mhm. So I'm a good student. I know how to be a student, right? I know, being a student is, submitting stuff on time. I'm a good student,
Yeah,
but the doctoral work seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a mountain, right?
yeah,
That I didn't have the skill set to climb. Think about a climber. You have to have the equipment, and I didn't have that. And I'm in an accelerated program, so they're really good at. I mean, I love the quickness of the classes, but the dissertation process, I feel like it's a process that's longer than the accelerated model of teaching,
yeah,
and you just have to engage in the writing independently. And I didn't have, just like when I went to college for the first time, right? I didn't have anyone who I knew had completed their doctoral degree, and everyone says they're going to help you, but I didn't have that support. So I was
yeah.
looking for that support. As reading as much, talking to other faculty who've gone through this process, trying to find a program that I felt comfortable with, because it's
Yeah.
an investment.
No, no, for sure. And so,
Mhm.
you're doing your work, maybe, trying to figure out how to get through this. Did you just hit a barrier and a block that said, I need help? Like, or were you like, I got to get help from the start? Like, what was your mindset going into this?
I I don't know. I want to say I needed to get help from the start.
Yeah.
I think it started happening like my semester courses before we're actually writing. So I'm in a writing chapter 1 and chapter 2 stage. I felt like the information I was receiving about the chapter 1 and chapter 2 was very disjointed, right? I felt like everything wasn't being shared to everyone. And I know this because we're part of peer working groups. And when I would speak to others in my program, they knew a little bit, they had some kind of different information.
Sure.
So I just didn't feel like I was given adequate guidance. I felt like, it's an independent process, and I get why it is, right? Because you're a researcher, right?
Yeah.
You're being published. But I needed more guidance. I needed more hands-on guidance.
No, that makes sense. Is that what brought you, or like to coming to our Design Your Done Dissertation event back in April? Is that what initially were like, oh, let me check this out? Is that kind of where you were at that point?
Right. So I would say that I'm a very critical person, I guess.
Yeah.
I do research. I want to research everything, get as much information as I can. So I started looking at programs that are available. I don't think any program offered, that 5-hour event. No program did. So I think, the 5-hour the event that you held, that 1-day event. I mean,
Yes.
that was really pivotal in me helping me make the decision, because I got to see individuals who are already in the program, have gone through the program. I heard their testimonies,
Yeah.
so which helped me to kind of lead to this program. And then, you, Dr. Goen, I mean, your research in itself, you're like you're a change agent, right? And your research, so I feel like you want someone who is involved in similar research to you, right? Because I'm studying developmental education at a community college level. Really, that is not a big interest for many people, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm studying it.
Yeah.
So you want individuals who are passionate about making changes in individuals' lives, who look like us. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And so when you came to the event, like I said, we did a 5-hour event. For folks who haven't come, they definitely need to show up to Design Your Done Dissertation, because again, we try to map out folks' plan and get people really thinking about this process. What was like a couple, maybe one or two takeaways that you had from that event that was like, okay, I can do this and I can move forward with my project?
The Done Dissertation plan, that was pivotal for me. I mean, hearing about that Done Dissertation plan and actually engaging in that process, that made it, hey, this is a process that's coming sooner than later.
Yes.
So you're forcing us to write dates, like speaking things into existence, writing the dates. You presented some real strategies to get this process done, and I like that.
No, that's great. And then you decided, to make, the investment and work with us. Were you apprehensive about that? Like after the event, what was your thought like going in, like, run me through how you were thinking then?
Of course, because there's lots of dissertation coaching
Yeah, for sure.
programs out there. There's lots there. You can, if you're just like I did, you're just searching on the internet, you can become inundated, right? Because you just never know who's who. And then when you read, I'm a big I like to read reviews, good and bad reviews.
For sure.
So I think, yeah, I was apprehensive, and I did. I met with Renee. I met with you one-on-one.
Yeah.
I asked some questions because there are, just some things I want to hear. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
just about quick to tell me how much the program cost, that's a problem. I want to know that you can actually deliver, right?
Yeah.
I want to know that if I'm investing this time and this energy, and this money, I want to know that I'm going to be able to get something out of it.
So let's talk about you. You're in our program right now in our current cohort. Have you gotten what you thought you would get, or not even that? Have you gotten what you invested in so far?
I have. I think the online curriculum, the trainings, the modules, right?
Mhm.
I have to tell anybody who's interested, make sure and do that, right? I think what you taught us about how to approach our chair. I mean, I have a really excellent relationship with my faculty advisor right now, because you've presented their perspective, because you've been through that yourself.
Yeah.
That has really helped this process. I don't think that I'm the best student in terms of my writing, but I think that my communication is open. You've given us templates on how to respond to feedback, templates on how to track your feedback. Even the first meeting, right? Because the first meeting, right? First impression counts.
Yeah.
I think my first meeting, I use a lot of the tools that you presented, and that helped to shape the conversation.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because it's all about shaping your chair and getting those things, getting that thing forward, and you implement it. Like that's the thing that we love, folks who just implement. So I'm really happy that you were able to do that. Talk a bit about what you had written coming in, and now what does it look like right now? Because you've had a pretty, even though you may not think about it like this, you've done a lot in very right now would probably be 3 months in. Like you've done a lot of
I
writing
have.
in a very short amount of time.
I have. I have. I think, I mean, I know you know that I'm one of those persons who asks the questions every single week.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good to be able. I mean, because your faculty advisor, or your chair. I mean, they're interacting with multiple students, right? Like mine, she has like 8 students times 20 something pages per chapter. That is a lot of time. So
Yeah.
the Done Dissertation program was really a good opportunity for me to come in weekly and ask my questions. Hey, I'm working on this, like my research questions, which
Yeah.
I'm happy with now, finally.
Yes.
Like bring in my research questions and have the individuals in the group actually comment on it.
Yeah.
I mean, right. And just also the camaraderie. Like, it's a program where I find that we motivate each other. And, even though I may not have a question, but I learn from the questions that other people are asking, or, the things that other people are doing.
No, that's great. And I think one thing I want to bring up that you've been able to do in terms of our coaching sessions, sometimes you're able to put yourself on the spot to like
Oh yeah,
we
that's
have these
hard.
interactions like back and forth. Tell me about like your thoughts about that, because you have to be brave to do it, and just tell people a little bit about how that has gone for you. Because I know if the first time you're like, oh, what am I doing? But you really have like leaned into it.
Yeah. I've put my writing there and have everyone look at it. That was hard initially. And every time it feels uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable, again, that's temporary. The bottom line is that the goal, I've been able to have other people comment on my research question, and for me to be able to have really great research questions, right? Or even the charts or tables that I created. It's uncomfortable, but doing it benefits me, right? And I'm sure it probably benefits someone else in the program, but I benefit.
Yeah, that's why we do it, because I don't want folks when they get to like the proposal phase, or if people ask you a question, I want y'all to slam dunk it. It's not about like, oh, I'm not quite sure. That's why I'd rather us like put kind of get you ready for that. So now when somebody questions you, hey, why did you do this with your study? You're like, oh, I have a response, or I feel like I'm savvy. I can come up with something on the fly to kind of answer that person's question.
Absolutely.
No, I,
Absolutely. Get ready for the questions, everyone. It's uncomfortable, but it's important because it
yeah.
forces you to think a certain way.
Yeah, and so with that, let's talk a bit about your dissertation. So tell folks about your dissertation, what you're thinking about doing, because you have the proposal phase. So tell folks about what the study is going to look like, you think, going into it.
So I am looking at, and it's a working title. Title is not important, is what's in the document is important, but
Amen
I'm
to that.
looking at the after effects of developmental education for students, first year community college students enrolled in 2 or more or multiple developmental courses. So it's a qualitative case study.
And so what brought you to this topic? So now, this is not necessarily public health per se.
Right.
So what brings you to this, looking at developmental ed?
So I initially wanted to do something on health literacy, right? Kind of marrying public health and education. And I'm still going to do that because I'm
Yeah,
committed to that.
good.
But I feel that, here I am working in a community college, right? So looking at, well, really, I do a lot of program advising.
Hmm.
And my, public health it's a science degree, right? So there's lots of prerequisite courses.
Right.
And then I interact with students who are adult learners and returning to college, and I hear their gripes, right? I hear them talk about the experiences in developmental education. That it's just, for some of them, it could, cause academic strain,
Yeah.
kind of prevent them from persisting. So I wanted to kind of give voice to that experience of students. That's why I'm doing a qualitative case study approach, just to bring attention, even at my institution, to bring attention to the plight, right? The
Yeah.
perceptions of students. That here we have a process that we think is helping them. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
But actually,
To
it's not.
develop, right? At its
To
core, to
develop,
develop them. And
right? Actually, in some instances, it really isn't.
yeah. And so I'm glad you shared it, because I think a lot of folks who are writing dissertations think like it has to be this whole like theoretical thing and it has to be so complex, but you're literally taking your experience from what you see as someone on the grounds, a practitioner, and just bringing a lens and a way to research it. And then now best believe that's what you're going to find in your study is going to help you and probably inform what you do even with your advising, or
Right.
even get the university to think differently about developmental ed. We may say like this might not be the best route for certain students.
And especially we're in an era where we're seeing states mandating, against the mandatory developmental education, like Florida and California in the past. So I can tell you that, developmental education, I mean, it has always been, but it's going to continue to be a hot button topic because it is really based on the data. It's not really doing what we think it's doing.
No, that's so great. Well, what would you say to someone who's considering working with Done Dissertation based on your experience so far? What would your advice be to them, or suggestion if they say, hey, should I work with those people? Are they all right?
Right. I'm a practical person, right? You've invested all of this time and this energy to get this degree, to get your doctorate, right? And any help that you can get along the way so that you get your dissertation done,
Indeed.
right? It's an investment in yourself. I mean, and I know, like for me, one of the consideration, I do get tuition reimbursement from my institution, but this is a service that will help you get to that end goal faster, right? And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I mean, having someone with your expertise and Dr. Varela's expertise is just going to enhance you as a student. I presented at an immersion, and my presentation, there was no questions after my presentation because of all the questions that Dr. Gohan and Dr. Varela ask you in our weekly meeting.
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah. We're all about making sure y'all are right. Like I said, I want y'all to go out and just kill it whenever you go and give a presentation or do anything around your research. And so with that, what does the future look like? So when it's Dr. Petula, what do you want to do with that once you finish the degree? Because it will happen, and it will happen sooner than you think. And so what does life look like once you finish this degree?
Wow, that's a $1 million question. I'm getting this question so much. Perhaps I need to think of it. Well, one of the things I have to say is that this program is not just about the dissertation process, right? You have offered a lot of learning opportunities and how to develop yourself as a person, right? You talk about grant, and I've been trying my best to take advantage of those opportunities. So, getting your research funded, other publishing opportunities. I actually don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm going to be better in the classroom because I have a degree in education. I have no idea.
No, that's cool. And that's all right not to know. I didn't either. I thought, like I said, I went into my program to be a principal. And you see, I haven't been a principal yet. But, it kind of shifts you. And I never thought I'd be doing Done Dissertation either. So, sometimes the degree kind of takes you in different places. So I'm excited to hear in your career. And so as we wrap up, where can people find you online if they want to reach out, learn more about your work, and connect with you?
That's a really good question. I'm struggling with that, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can look me up. My name is Petula Alvaradous-Phillander. That's where I am now. Well, now that I'm a part of Done Dissertation, I'm also on Facebook. Yeah, so feel free, send me an email. If you, my email address is on LinkedIn. I would love to collaborate with anyone who's interested in developmental education, because I think we need to really bring attention to this issue, because we want more students, even more so now than ever. Yeah. We want students to graduate with their degree. Not halfway degree is not a degree. We want. Yeah. We want that. We want to increase the number of minorities that are, have degrees, bachelor's degrees, Bachelor of Science. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, with that, I want to say thank you so much. I'm going to bring you behind the stage for a second to wrap up, and then we'll talk after. But thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you reach out to Petula. When she's Dr. Petula, remember you saw her here first, and that she's going to be doing great things. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Well, thank you, everybody, for checking in and watching this episode of Done Dissertation Office Hours. I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation. We demystify the dissertation process so that doctoral students can write and defend their dissertation in 1 year or less. With that, I want to give you a special invitation to join us at Design Your Done Dissertation. This is a 5-hour workshop. You heard Petula talk about it. It's a 5-hour workshop dedicated to giving you the strategies and tools to put together a dissertation completion plan so that you can finish your dissertation in months instead of years. So if you're interested in learning more, what I want you to do is visit www.designyourdissertation.com. And again, that's www.designyourdissertation.com to learn more. Our event is on August the 21st. You definitely don't want to miss out. It's going to be hot seat coaching. So if you have questions about your dissertation, you can join us live and actually ask your questions, get feedback from myself, from other coaches. I mean, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great time to network, build community, because as Dr. Petula said, I'm going to put into existence for her, is that you got to build community, because that's how we create opportunities for each other. That's how we get support to get through this process. So make sure that you join us on August 21st at Design Your Done Dissertation. You can visit our website, www.designyourdissertation.com. And I look forward to seeing you all next week on another episode of Done Dissertation Office Hours.